you won't go insane. And when you've done it, turn the page and do it all again. When you doubt your sanity, just write another song. Half the work is showing up to write another song. If all else be vanity, go write another song. I'm gonna put off growing up to write another song. I do this so that I don't go insane. And when I've done it, I go back and do it all again. Good evening. It's Sunday the 18th of April. Hello to Array of Emotions who joins us over in Belgium. I hope you're doing well. Yes, I've faffed around with the lights again, so it's now teal on this side and orange on that side. Good evening, Wobby. I hope you are feeling well. Mel is here too, but she's stuck watching adverts. Oh, the joys of reaching whatever level I'm at on Twitch. I really don't track what's going on Twitch at the moment. I'm just sort of getting back into making music. So hello to all. I thought I'd kind of just crack on with it today, because Write Another Song tended to be more Chris waffling for an hour and 20 minutes than writing songs last Sunday. So let's not do that this evening. Hello to Riako Music. Hi Mel. I hope you're doing well. I hope VPC is doing well too. I've got a head start on you. So I have actually put together a few bits and pieces. So imagine that we are now at the stage that we would have been at last week if I'd been a bit together. Mike Tango Charlie, hello. I have something to show you. So let's go back to the main camera. As you're here, and last week you were saying about how repurposed landfill equipment, yada, yada, yada. Remember that? And I said, oh, I've got something to show you. And then completely forgot about it. Spitfire Audio brought out another one of their originals, 29 quid, $29, 29 euros, musical instruments. And this one is actually called Landfill Totems. There you go. It's mad. It's very much bleepy goodness. It's loads of signal generators that were used on space programs and all sorts of mad things like that. And the guy said some of the plugins make rather large voltages, so they're not exactly the sort of CV synthesizer control voltage type stuff. This is stuff that'll kill you if you're not sensible with it. Yeah, quite tempted to buy that one actually, but haven't bought it yet. But I'm glad you popped up so that I could show you. So Spitfire Audio, as you all know, I'm a bit of a Spitfire Audio fanboy, and I've been using their stuff a lot, and quite a few of these SA things. I've got the Olivier Patrice Vader Composer Toolkit, which has a beautiful soft piano in it, and I think I may next month be adding that to my collection as well. So yeah, it's called Heinbach Landfill Totems. So there you go. Right, where was I? He said, clapping his hands and completely overloading his microphone. Let's go back to Ableton, because I've been putting together a sort of drum track, few synth layers. So this week, just to mix it up a bit, I haven't used DevKit. Instead, I've gone back to Superior Drummer, which is an upgrade and a much more complicated beastie than Easy Drummer, which is what I started off with 10 plus years ago, creating stuff with Ableton. It uses all the Easy Drummer expansion packs. So there's one that I'm particularly fond of called Claustrophobic, which is a bit sort of gritty and hip-hoppy. And if I play you a groove with it... Rather nice. I'm very partial to that particular drum sound. And when it's chucked through my usual trick of gated reverb, it sounds bloody excellent, quite frankly, and I say so myself. That's not a bad drum sound, is it, really, for 10 minutes work? So in Ableton, feed the audio output from your drum track, post effects, because I'm using the Ableton plugin Drum Bus with its transient shaping enhance preset, which basically really emphasizes the transients, which are the initial very sharp, very rapidly changing parts of a musical note or a drum hit. And it does crazy things to any drum kit and makes it sound 100 times better. So you then feed that into a nice, very long reverb. But you pop noise gate on after the reverb, so that as the reverb gently tails away, when it hits the threshold of the noise gate, it just goes off completely rather than gently tail away. And that's the secret to 1980s drum sounds. And I'm still 40 years on, all about the 1980s when it comes to music production, because quite frankly, the 1980s were a watershed in musical production and audio production. And not only did the 1980s see the introduction of the compact disc, they also saw the introduction of digital recorders and digital mixers in the industry widespread. And that completely changed music sound for the better, I think. Right, so yeah, laid down a drum track, and again, I've got very wary. Let's go back to the main camera. I've got very wary of doing the old 1-4-5 musical chord progression. Now, all right, Mike Tango Charlie's probably sitting there going, well, what does that mean even? So when you're playing blues, so I've got Native Instruments Contour, which is a synth that sounds like this. Okay, so that was a C. So if we take a scale of C, the scale being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, and then 4, and then 5, and then 4, and then 1. Okay. Play that on a guitar. 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. And those three chords, the C, the F, and the G, that's what people talk about when they say three chords and a truth. But when you're on a guitar, it's still 1-4-5, but it tends to be E. E, isn't it? E, B, A, B. It's just those 3 chords, and it's like all blues progressions. And I love the blues, but I've just been finding out that absolutely everything on my bloody musical adventures recently has been a 1-4-5 chord progression. And it has to stop. Hello, stupid UK guy. Good evening, good evening. Just violently waiting for my kettle to boil so I can sit down and start watching properly. Ha ha. Good evening, all. Good evening to you. Yeah, so songwriting. Quick demonstration of 1-4-5 blues chord progression. That is me going, no, this is not what I'm going to do. So, how did I get past it? Well, it's simple. I just used the keyboard instead, because the keyboard was kind of the thing I did in bands back in the 80s, and when I learned music back in the days when I did actually learn some rudimentary elements of music, it was on the piano, and I hated piano practice. I really wish I could go back and give myself a stern talking to now, because I would have a very, very different perspective on those lessons, believe you me. So anyway, what I did, got a basic drum rhythm, and then decided, okay, I'll play Contour, which is this rather nice bass synthesizer. And Array of Emotion says, oh, isn't that always how it goes with lessons? Yeah, it's like music should be fun. And at the time, I just did not see lessons as being fun. Poor me. So, Contour is that thing there, and it's inside the Complete Control wrapper with a K, because that's what lets me control most of the parameters, actually, without going anywhere near my computer, because I can just do it on my Complete Control keyboard, which I have here. And notice that as this is a bare bones template, remember all that horrendous latency that there was on Thursday's show, where I was playing a note and had my hands well away from the keyboard before it sounded. Well, I mean, if I do it now, so much better. I really need to up the hard disks on my machine. I think that might be, because there's an Intel i9 9900 in there. It should not be struggling with 64 gigs of RAM, but something is slowing it down, and I have a feeling it's disk access, because most of the disk drives that I've got, I say most, I've got six? No, I've got 8 disk drives in that machine, because nerd. And some of them are from the system before the system that I had last. So they're very, very old, very, very slow spinny. And I need to up my game. And quite frankly, for anything like sample libraries and stuff like Contour, like all of these other games, I should be putting those on a solid state drive. I really should. Stupid UK guy, thank you for subscribing. Spinny disks equals bad. You're not wrong. Yeah. Spinny disks at 5400 RPM, I might add. So they're not even the 7600 or whatever it is. They were they're big, but they're really, really, really rather slow. And when I've got a lot of stuff on a set in Ableton, it does kind of slow it down. Anyway, I put together a bass line using Contour. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to give some love to my free synthesizers. So, yes, we're back with DexEd, the Yamaha DX7 clone that is entirely free. And if you go over to GitHub, because all the best synthesizers live on GitHub, you can download it. And I had a look and noticed that there is a new release of it. Well, it's new as of last month, and it's now VST3 rather than just a VST2. And they've tweaked the interface and done a whole bunch of other stuff. And it does now work in Apple Silicon M1 builds, whatever that means, which I guess is the new Apple OS stuff, whatever else it is. But anyway, I love DexEd. Brian Eno is an aficionado of DexEd as well, I might add. And so I used that. I also used one, I don't know, I've mentioned this before, it's called Tunefish. Again, totally free. Tunefish is tiny. Like the guy says, it'll fit into 10 kilobytes of machine code. I don't know how he does it, but it's 64-bit and it's a polysynth. The website is tunefish-synth.com, so it's not exactly not obvious, shall we say. Not exactly obscure. Stupid Yoko guy says, oh no, I installed my complete library on an M2 SSD. Well worth it. How does it stack up against other FM synths, software and hardware? The DexEd, I absolutely love. It's faithful enough to the DX7 that it will load system exclusive files as stored on DX7 ROM cartridges, and there are plenty of those SYX files kicking around on the net. The Tunefish, I really like Tunefish. It's got a great does lovely pads, does a whole bunch of really stonkingly good bass lines as well, and there are rather a lot of presets for it, it has to be said. Anyway, I'm going to leave that on pad 3, otherwise I'll forget what I actually selected. And yeah, I'll play you what I've come up with so far. So this is like writing another song that I started about an hour ago. This is how far I've got. So this is, well, I've called this Ironclad. I'm still sort of mulling lyrics, but it sounds like this. So how about that? I've even pre-programmed the fade for you. I'm that on top of things today, which makes a refreshing change, one has to say. Ryako Music says, that cloud supply sounds cool. I said in the chat, but let's check, because I'm pretty sure it's in Complete Start, which is the free downloaded, which is the free melody. Melody? It's part of the free series. Maybe it isn't. Get Cloud Supply now. Maybe it isn't part of the free version. You actually have to pay for that. But I have Complete 13, which has ridiculous numbers of instruments in it. So could be. Good evening, Guppy Wigper. Hello, hello, hello. But it does sound. You see, this is one of, I was saying about picking a piece of synthesizer tech and learning the ins and outs of it. This is actually the first time I've used Cloud Supply ever, and I bought Complete 13 back in November. But it is really nice. Some of the Cloud Supply presets are monophonic, but I went through a few to find a decent sort of polyphonic pad, and there's a lot of echo on this, which livens it up no end. And there's also a little bit, a smidge of reverb, but it sounds rather splendid. Let's just go back to the beginning so you can hear it rather than post the fade. Stupid UK guy says, it's Complete 13 now. I used to work in a music shop about 5 years back, and that was Complete 9, I think. Yep, 13 dropped. Well, it was pretty much at about the same time I bought all the synthesizer and everything in here. So it was the second half of last year. But I do like that. So just adds a little bit of embellishment to the bridge and then the play out at the fade. So that's kind of where I've got so far. So we're all about the 80s guitar, the 80s music production here. So I thought the next thing that I was going to do would be to add a bit of very, very bright, very, very jangly guitars, for which I shall use my most jangly and brightest guitar, which is the G&L S500, which I picked up second-hand. Most of these guitars are second-hand, I hasten to add. In fact, they're all... No, the Godin's not second-hand, and the Ibanez 9-string's not second-hand. Oh, and the Jackson's not second-hand, but all the others are. And what I'm going to do... listen to the buzz on that, eh? Really shows you we're doing this live, doesn't it? No processing whatsoever. There is a rather nice, very, very bright patch on my Zoom G3 down here at my feet, which sounds like this. And might have helped if I tuned this first, mightn't it? Because I haven't picked this guitar up for a couple of days. It's more or less in tune. Well, that wasn't. Alright, scratch that. It wasn't in tune. And it's always the G string that goes out most. Don't know why. that'll do. Because what I'm going to do with this, and I will enable it so I can hear how I'm going to play it on this. So we'll turn that to auto. And because this is going through the deck as well, maybe we won't do it that way. I am going to have to mute myself while I play the guitar. Otherwise, it'll all go terribly wrong. So, Mike Tango Charlie says, I'm pretty sure jangly guitars were at their peak the year after I arrived in the UK. Yeah, very well. Jangly guitars kind of never really go out of fashion. But you remember Go West? The production on Go West's album, if I get to the point where I sound like Go West, then I can die a happy man, because I love their stuff. Right, on to mute. I'm going to think of some sort of jangly guitar chords for bits of the verses and everything. So let's see what we come up with. Painful. Bear with me a second. See, I can play it immediately when it's just no pressure. But so this is performance anxiety, choking. I don't know. Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it? And stay off the bottom strings, Chris, because that doesn't work. So we'll cheat now. We'll cut and paste that for the other verses, because why not? We're doing this fast, remember? So, and that is why one uses locators, kids, because locators just let you drag and drop, and it all works and it all fits. So yeah, jangly guitars, right? I've got two electrics that do this, because they have what is known as piezoelectric pickups in the bridges. So we'll use the Godin, because that's just had fresh strings, so it's going to be even janglier. And good God, this thing doesn't get any lighter. Right, it has a whole bunch. I shouldn't put it on first, should I? This has a whole bunch of different outputs. And what I actually want, it actually has a separate output, which is just labelled acoustic. And now, rather than all this gubbins in the main body, it's just using pickups that are built in here. And it's got a nice little volume control set here. You see how bright and shiny and... Let's tune this one as well. I bet this one's absolutely in tune, he said rashly. Pretty much. The secret of big guitar sounds is that it's not just one guitar, it's two guitars. Mike Tango Charlie says, why do things go out of tune? Is it the relentless march of entropy? I think a lot of it has to do with the oh God, I've forgotten the name of the coefficient of whatever it is, the expansion of metals when they get hot, because the temperature varies in here, so metals get hot and then they contract again, and it tends to bugger up the tunings. But this has got a locking tremolo system on it, which kind of stops it being too extreme. But right, so you can hear just how it is very, very super bright. Right, so back on mute and we'll double. Job's a good one, I think. Right, so put the Godin back on the wall. And the next step of the process for getting a big guitar sound, after you've doubled it, I think we're probably going to need rather more than the current number of guitar tracks in this. So Control D will duplicate that, and we'll Control D and duplicate that again. So we've now got loads of guitar tracks to play with. Right, yeah, next step in making the guitars sound really big, pan them left and right, but do not pan them full left or right. So hard right and hard left is 50 each way. So I normally, for the surround guitar sound, normally have it around about 45. And as you heard when the S500 played back, because I've now dropped the reverb on it and it's playing back, in fact, I think we might just edge that back a bit because it was a bit over the top, wasn't it? So basically what I'm doing here is I'm adjusting the send, the A send. So I don't tend to drop reverb on individual tracks anymore. I used to, and I probably have 10 different reverbs running on a particular set in Ableton, and then wondering, why is my CPU meter going mental at the moment? It's much easier, and Ableton is set up as such that you have an A and a B send, which can have basically any effect that you want, and every track that you fiddle about and just change this to be non-minus infinity will send to, well, that's the A send, that's the B send. The B send in this case is delay. The A send, yes, it's my old friend, the totally free and absolutely brilliant Valhalla supermassive reverb modulation secret sauce. I absolutely love supermassive. So now if we play what I've got so far again, I should have a nice humongous and very, very wet, i.e. full of reverb, guitar sound. Very loud, so let's take that down. So it's quite heavily compressed. So Mike Tango. So just catching up with the chat. So Mike Tango, I didn't know your brothers were guitar-y type. That's really interesting. So acoustic guitars almost always mean classical guitar for me. Both my brothers were classically trained and used to improvise at home. Racker Music says, wow, and I'm not far behind. Mike Tango Charlie says, I always asked them what they were playing, but it was just real-time improv, which blew my mind. Wow. Stupid UK guy says, I'm curious what instruments people play in the chat. Yeah, so some great responses to that. Then, yeah, Thermal Goblins is a very, very good explanation of why things go out of tune. And Mike Tango Charlie says to Bobby, is a single bass cheaper than a double bass? In most cases, yes. Maybe a fractional bass, 1/5 should be affordable. You can actually get quarter-size cellos and quarter-size double basses. So a quarter of a double bass, is that like a half bass? Who knows? Anyway. Where were we? We need more guitars, I think, because we always need more guitars. So this time I'm going to use my my favourite. So again, I picked this up from a mate in my local guitar shop called Intersound. And he was selling it because all the frets were falling out of the fingerboard because it's carbon fibre, and if Parker had a few quality control issues. So you would not believe the trials and tribulations that the guys in Intersound went through to find a glue that would stick the frets back into this. I had to wait a year before I could pick up this guitar, but this is my favourite guitar. It also has the piezoelectric pickups in the bridge. It also is a locking tremolo. It's also a Roland GR55 guitar synth controller, so it basically does everything. Okay, so I think, in contrast with the super jangly, bright guitars, we need the other very, very 80s cliche, don't we, of just a little burst of super distorted Rockman. Oh, listen to that whine. In fact, that's probably a little bit. So what I'm doing with my feet, so I've got the Zoom G3, and that's Valley Rock preset, but before the Zoom G3 I've got a little 20 quid Digitech Bad Monkey overdrive pedal, which kind of boosts the signal going into the Zoom G3, and that tends to do really, really interesting things with how the Zoom processes sound. So, for instance, if I've got a clean sound on the Zoom, like this, and then you make the input to it super hot and play the same thing, it sounds completely different. So I love that sound, but that's not the sound that we need here. We need shouty rock guitars, which that delivers. You remember we were talking about Rockmans? You shouldn't have had that conversation about, well, why don't you get one? And I went and did let's go back to the main camera. Right. I went and did quite a lot of surfing the interwebs after Thursday night show, was it? About the Rockman. So the one to get is apparently, now I know, is the Rockman times 100 or X100. And I found one that was going for less than £1,000 on eBay. There were a number of subsequent issues that basically gradually dropped the really cool chorus and delay processing and the clean processing and the number of presets that you had with the little sliders. And then Jim Dunlop bought the rights to make them. And the final versions don't even have a chorus, so it's like, well, that's not the sound that I want from a Rockman. So I think I've given up hope of owning a Rockman, but Zoom does a pretty good job, I think. So right, we won't do anything for the pre-chorus. What are we going to do for the chorus then here? What's the chorus go like again? I've forgotten. Double it, so I fudge around with the guitar's tone settings and change a different pickup so that it sounds a little bit different, but not too much. So, and once again we pan, but I was always taught you never pan another instrument to exactly the same spot as something else that you've got panned, other than the centre, because you want your bass and your vocals and everything else to sit in the centre. So we'll pan these to 35 left and right, and we'll put just a smidge of reverb on those as well, so -9 I think sounds about right. Save. Always save your work, kids, it does help. Right, what do those sound like? We might need another one in the middle, so we've got enough. Can you hit that whine? I think is because I'm using a switch mode power supply. Really should not be making that noise, and it is beginning to irritate me a bit, especially when I can silence it by turning through 90 degrees, which is like, go figure. All right, let's do a third set of guitars, shall we? Wine. Haven't touched a drop today. So maybe it's the guitar. It could well be because of the pickups, or the way that I'm using the pickups. Anyway, not an issue at the moment. So what's that sound like now with 3 guitars in the mix? Again, we'll make them a little bit further back in the mix because they are quite shouty, and much as I like shouty guitars. Right, let's see what that's like. I could probably drop another 3 dB quite easily there, I would think. And I should really have separate submixes for all the different guitars, but for the moment we'll just stick up. That's a little bit more controlled, isn't it? How are you lot doing out there? You all still with me? Any questions? Any observations? What am I doing wrong? What is sounding ridiculous that I should not be doing? Still here, says Ryako Music. Excellent. Right, let's go back to presenter mode. I know I've got a synthesizer doing the bass, but you've got to have bass as well, so we will use the completely gratuitous and very over the top 9-string, because, like Tango Charlie says, ditto, good, glad to hear it. So this, I'm tuning the low string to a C sharp. That's how low can you go. Then that's an F sharp. That's a B. And then we're into familiar electric guitar territory with an E. More or less an E. Then A, D. So you may be wondering, if you're watching on a big screen, which who knows, some people might be, that this thing has a sort of fluffy thing tied around the nut, and that's a fret wrap, which I'd use an awful lot on this because the strings are very, very light, very, very heavy gauge, and they tend to rattle a lot when you're not playing them, and you've got to mute them, otherwise they buzz. So, right, and kind of what I'm doing now is just a sort of business-like, but not particularly over-the-top bass line. What's my channel set here to default preset. That's going to help, isn't it? Let's turn that to bass. What does that sound like? Very, very loud. Right. Let's have a playthrough, see what comes up. Guppy Wigba says, "Hey, you've got the stick." So I think for Jules, let's give it some stick, shall we? What I'll do is I'll just use, because the stick is a stereo instrument, so I can just plug in and use that same bass feed. That actually sounds suspiciously like it's in tune. Yep. I think so. Right, so let's try the stick. Can we get a glorious main cam view of that? Says, of course you can. So, yeah. So I've got to change what I was doing from fretboard to stick board now. So let's have another playthrough, shall we? Quieter, so I'll turn it up a bit. let's wing it, shall we? And if I crash and burn, I crash and burn. I can always go back and do it again, because that's kind of the whole point of digital audio workstations. If I turn on that button, it punches in, so it only starts recording at that point, because I've kind of done the verse. So what was the pre-chorus again? Good evening. You like the wobbly bit? It's one of the. I mean, I totally copied good old Tony Levin, but I mean you just slur between notes, and it kind of works brilliant. So. It's too low for the stick. I need a grand stick, which goes even lower and is far more expensive, so forget that. That'll do, won't it? So what I'm doing, basically, I've now dropped in, you see the orange markers there, punch in and punch out. So literally all I recorded there was that little bit there. And there's another one of those at the end. So I can just control and drag and drop it. So that now leaves me the bridge. And what I'm going to do is not do bass for the bridge, but on the bass, on the end. So I can take my loop brace down there. And don't need to punch out, so we're punching on the end. What's the end do? It's just two chords, isn't it? Because it fades, I am eventually going to drift out of time. So why didn't you turn the metronome on before you started, Chris? Let's try that again. pretty much gets it there now. So, where have we got to in 90 minutes from where we were? Let's just take this thing off because it's quite unwieldy, and we'll play it through and take stock. Right. And good call on the stick, Guppy Woke, but that was fun. I haven't played stick enough recently. And what have we got? Everything pretty much there as it should be. Let's turn that off. Right, here we go. So there we go. Mike Tango Charlie says, I still find multi-track recording kind of amazing. Part of me is still 10 years old and thinks that everything is laid down simultaneously and in one take. A lot of bands used to, and some bands still do exactly that. They all are playing in a room together at the same time. I'm pretty sure most of Motorhead's back catalogue, certainly in the Lemmy, Eddie and Filthy Animal days, would just play it and record it. Maybe Lemmy would do the vocals afterwards, but in general it was just bands in large rooms with lots of acoustic shielding between them. But I'm just me, and I have to do everything one bit at a time, but it is stupidly good fun. Anyway, been going an hour and a half, and I think we'll call it a night for tonight at this point, because there's the bones of something there. Haven't really decided on lyrics or anything. I'll probably put some more embellishments on. I've got quite a lot of guitar tracks left to fill in. Looking at this, there's a good four guitar tracks still there, and I might even use some of the old analog synths and go really retro. But as Mike Tango Charlie says, a new week awaits, and I will let you escape. So thank you very much for hanging out with me, and I hope that was mildly entertaining or informative, perhaps even, or just you're all sitting there going, why is he doing it like that? There are much easier ways of doing it. And there probably are, but I learn what the easier ways are of doing things by doing it in the infuriatingly complex and inordinately complicated way for 10 years, and then watch a YouTube video and think, oh. So I hope maybe I brought an moment to you this evening. But I will be back on Thursday with my more general drivel show where I just pontificate about things, and I'll probably, I hope I will have new music for you, because 1590, the prequel, I nearly said pre-sequel, and that's the Borderlands pre-sequel, isn't it? So this is my video gaming background coming out. That's like everyone, says Ryako Music. Good, it's not just me. I'll be back on Thursday, hopefully with some new pieces of music. Hopefully with that particular piece finished off with perhaps even lyrics and me singing. I will spare you that on tonight's stream. And I'll be back here on Sunday with Write Another Song show number 4. So, it's a whole new week ahead. What surprises lie in wait? I might have a surprise for you on Thursday. So do make a point of joining me at 19:30 British summertime on Thursday, and at 2100 on Sunday, a week today. And we'll write another song, Mike Tango Charlie says. Catch you on the flip side. And indeed, whatever you're doing this week, please stay social distancing, please wear a mask, and look after yourselves, look after each other, stay well, stay safe, stay sane, stay Wayne, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.